எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். செந்தமிழ் நாடனும் போதினிலே இன்னும் பெண் வந்து பாயுது காதினிலே. எங்கள் தந்தையர் நாடென்ற பேச்சினிலே ஒரு சக்தி பிறக்குது மூச்சினிலே. பாரதியார். யாமறிந்த மொழிகளிலே தமிழ் மொழி போல் இனிதாவது எங்கும் காணோ. யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேளீர். கனியன் பூங்குன்றனார். கல் தோன்றி முன் தோன்றா காலத்து முன் தோன்றி வாளோடு தோன்றிய தமிழ் புறப்பொருள் வெண்பா. தமிழுக்கும் அமுதென்று பேர், எங்கள் தமிழ் இன்பத் தமிழ் உயிருக்கும் மேல். தமிழுக்கும் நிலவென்று பேர், இன்பத் தமிழ் சமூகத்திற்கு விளையும் பயிர். இவையெல்லாம் நாம் படித்த பாடங்கள். தமிழ் கலாச்சாரம் உலகெங்கும் பரவிக்கொண்டு வருகிறது. நான் கிட்டத்தட்ட 40 நாடுகளில் நான் சந்தித்த தமிழ் மக்களை நான் நினைத்து பார்க்கின்றேன். இந்த அரங்கத்தினுடைய அவைத்தலைவராக இருக்கின்ற தத்தோ சரவணன் அவர்களே, இப்பொழுது பேசிய பேச்சாளரே, அதை தவிர இங்கே வந்திருக்கின்ற தமிழ் பெருங்குடி மக்களே, உலகங்கள் வந்திருக்கின்ற தமிழ்குடி பெருமக்களே, உங்கள் அனைவரையும் முதற்க நன்றி கலந்த வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். The global economy challenges. If you look at the International Monetary Fund indications in January, the aggregate growth of the global economy should not be more than 2.9%. 2022 was 3.4%. 2024, the year ahead, is likely to be 3.1%. Advanced economies, so-called the G7 club, should be reporting 1.2%. Some are technically in recession. The emerging markets, the developing economy, in substance, in aggregate terms, should be reporting around 4%. Topping in the list is India, 6%. China is around 5.2%. Middle East and Central Asia should be in the range of 3.2%. That's an indication. Clearly, we are in the crossroads. We have seen the inflation. In 2008, when the global financial crisis cropped up, we thought it's a liquidity problem. Liquidity problem moved into a funding problem, funding into solvency, solvency to sovereign. We printed the liquidity, improved the money supply, and inflated the world. And we redefined the structure which was deceiving the common man. We increased the capital adequacy in terms of Basel II, Basel III. Setting governance standard, universal standard in terms of accounting, valuation, securitizations, are all the global norms which we reinvented again to make it more ethical and moral. Then the COVID came. Extraordinary set of economic risk and governance, set of social risk and governance, human risk and governance, environmental risk and governance. The lessons learned we have in terms of healthcare or hygiene. And again, articulating the money supply, which we learned out of 2008, improving the liquidity and special concession, including freebies, to make sure the world economy is not collapsing on account of this pandemic. Of course, we lost millions and millions of people. Still, we are in distress in terms of multiple forms and substance. Now, we have a bigger challenge. There are early warnings. Yesterday, I tweeted, the rush to increase the interest rate, contain the disinflation, is articulately being administered. Some countries are diverging into dangerous principles of destabilizing the economy in the form of containing the inflation. The solution remains in aligning between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Fiscal policy comes out of the politicians. The monetary policy comes out of the technocrats, central bankers. Interest rate or inflation or money supply is the role of the regulators. unless there is a synchronization in the form of solutions in terms of accommodative monetary policy, so that what happens in one part of the world doesn't resonate in the rest of the world. That's precisely what's happening as we speak. We had a collapse of Silvergate Bank. We have, again, Silicon Valley Bank, a signature bank, day before yesterday. The economies are in shatters. Even the primary indication which I mentioned and predicted in January is no more is going to be real. Substantive impact we have seen in the European economy. Interest rate goes up. The common man is suffering. His consumerism and cost of living is being challenged, and he's out of budget. Unless you balance the force in making sure growth and the disinflation comes in, you will be causing a bigger danger. In my pursuit of professional banking and economics, there are early warnings for a third financial crisis now. It is already in the offing. So how do we solve it? Every crisis in pursuit of excellence is always an opportunity. The fiscal prudence has to come. The government has to necessarily make sure the expenditure comes in. So the government expenditure into infrastructure creation has to come. So that's an opportunity for most of the economies. Again, disinflation has to be moderated, not to overreact. The Federal Reserve was sending a mixed signals time and again. The data dissemination takes, data lags, and percolating down the line and making sure the initiatives which you have taken in terms of containing the disinflation is not degenerating the growth. That's not a purpose. That's not a mandate for technocrats. We are seeing world over the divergence in terms of overall monetary policy. And the fiscal capacity is getting destabilized. That's why aggregate growth of advanced economies are grossly 1.2%. Look at the developing economies today. India is topping in the list. There are sectors which are enablers. There are sectors which are really adding values. There are decisive governments. We are seeing a huge amount of government expenditure to the tune of $2 trillion, 110 new airports, over 100 smart cities, 3 trillion e-commerce, over 2 billion mobile commerce, over 1 billion you have internet commerce. It's happening in this part of the world where the oil price, where 45% of the world oil, 25% of the world gas comes from this region, is running in surplus. It's not every part of the world is in disarray. But our inflation, which is resulting in stagflation for most of the part of the world, there are technical recessions in many parts of the world already. There are growth. Again, how do we aggregate all this and come with a global governance? The model which I always articulate is to synchronize our decision making instead of firing it in individual cylinders, integration. That's what required. That's what the sociologist was articulating in terms of elimination of extreme poverty, gender equality. How do we reduce the income inequality? But the Chancellor Vishwanathan was articulating in the morning. So the issue remains more than what we conceive. Gender equality is another area where we need to propel the growth. So in terms of opportunities, if you look at it, unless you create job and employment, I was told South Africa had 40% unemployment. How will you have? You will have social unrest. So it's important that world economies are recognizing from a governance perspective, global governance perspective, and supplement additional advantage instead of looking at their individual domain. And that should be the convergence I'm talking about. When it comes to energy transition, again, it was well spelled out. There's a transition, energy transition, right? Increasing sea level, increasing temperature, animal extinctions. We have extraordinary set of challenges. Unless we move to alternates, fossil fuels, no more history. There are alternates available. Solar, wind, biofuel, biomass. We have reason to believe we have to necessarily protect our children and grandchildren. This planet has to endure its common good. Not only we have to create a better world, better citizenship to this world, it means we have to look into Not economics alone, economics, convergence of ecology and economics should be the substance. So there is a major challenge. Major opportunity also lies in the transition, the change the energy mix. So how do we do it? I was telling Dr. Seetharaman, we have bigger opportunity in terms of trade. Unless global trade, global investments is in free flow across the nation, you will not have financial stability. It's not only price stability. Many of the central bankers are mistakenly firing it in one cylinder. It is not a price stability. It is not financial stability. It is overall economic momentum has to converge with ecology. Look at India. In spite of the fiscal challenges, the oil price mounting over $100, now it is articulating between $70 to $80. The fiscal consolidation is a major key. So they have to take a different step, unique steps of still, irrespective of the sanctions Americans have envisaged, they have to buy the oil from Russia. It's not an option. Again, Dr. Seetharaman was mentioning, there are no principles in the empty stomach, right? There are no principles. Unless you feed a common man, his housing, his food, his shelter, and other consumables, you are not going to articulate solutions. So digital economy has got a bigger advantage. That's what the lesson we learned out of the pandemic. It has taught us enormous amount of aggregation, compassionate capitalism, if I use the expression. We have to be considerate in recognizing the challenges, and opportunities are endless. How do we do it? Multilateral trade. So Dubai, for example, the bilateral trade between UAE and India is over 100 billion. It is not direct one-to-one. It's the anti-part trade which plays a role. So let us focus on signing up more and more multilateral trade, irrespective of the political will. We have to come to terms. Look at a few days before, Saudi Arabia and Iran is coming together. Our purpose is to ensure humanity endure its values, not to go on political ideologies alone. It is economics which precedes the politics in today's context. And it will continue to be the case with the changing face of the world. It's globalization, it's deregulation, it's now become re-regulation, consumerism, and technology today. What you cannot achieve by interconnectivity. Nobody's location-centric, they're information-centric. It doesn't matter my territorial integrity, whether we are in Malaysia or South Africa or India or the Gulf. We have to create the value propositions which are multilateral. We have to understand it's one family. We have to be compassionate in recognizing it and making sure we create the value purpose. The purpose of living, it has to be endure. If you understand, it is multilateral trade, multilateral investments again, in ensuring we pave a way for human rights again. Human dignity should never be compromised. If you aim at short term, you cultivate flowers. If you aim at medium term, you cultivate trees. If you aim at eternity, you build humanity. And that's what the need of the hour. The purpose of the Tamil Economic Conference, the Global Economic Summit, is to bring us all. We are united by language, right? We also carry the culture. I have attended, me and my wife attended Tamil functions. We have seen Russian children playing on Tamil culture. I have seen, Hari has invited me in Japan. We have seen Japanese children dancing for Indian music. The culture is transcended, the food is transcended, music is transcended, the films are transcended, whether Bollywood or Hollywood, Collywood or Tollywood, whatever you call it as. It's all converging. We live in one world. That's the message. Forget about your individual identity. Now we have bigger opportunity to digitize and make sure the governance is much more trustworthy and transparent. And that's what we should do. We should come to create a portal. Datto has asked me the solution. Solutions lies in creating a portal where we are connected. We have a common gateway as Tamilians. We create a network for business advantage. Not only, say hello, hello and go. We have to endure economic enrichment. That's the purpose. It means we have to leverage the technology. We should have a recurring conference, monthly conference. Why? Why do we can have annual conferences. We have to come together every month and connect. How do we promote through our connectivity the common language across the globe, export is import, or manufacturing? How do you reduce the cost of capital? How do we make sure anti-pot trade we create? The values are endless. The list goes on. I'm only touching the surface of it to ensure that we coordinate and cooperate. And the purpose of this submission, there are many subjects which we are going to discuss in tandem. It has been very carefully screen printed. The diversity in terms of bringing the Tamil community has been well designed, I should say. Now, it's not only talk, show, and go. We have to unite ourselves to make sure that we communicate constantly and build an economic enrichment as a platform. That will carry a long way. That will make sure that we help each other. Our prosperity is collective wisdom, shared vision, shared leadership, shared prosperity. Then we create global prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, just to sum it up, the challenges and opportunities are endless. We will continue to have challenges. We can map it through our professional advantage. We can increase the value for sustainable development goals. We can ensure we stay connected as one wall, as Tamilians, and we'll bring in more prosperity. Then the purpose of our forefathers, like 3,000 years before, Kaniyan Pungundranar said, "Yadum ure yavarum kelir." என்ற நல்ல வார்த்தை நமக்கு நிஜமாகும். அல்ல என்று சொல்லி வாய்ப்பளித்தமைக்கு நன்றி கூறி விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.